Ladies and gentlemen, I am Melvin Banks, and this is the Carbonation Conversation reviewing Fear Street Part 2, 1978. So, let's get started, shall we? As we looked in Part 1, as far as we know, the witch put a curse in, and that curse wrecked Dina and basically her entire friend circle, to the point where at the end of the movie, Sam was possessed because her name was on the wall, and I have no idea how Dina even survived that knife scene. She was just able to tie Sam down with some telephone wire from a landline, but I digress. They ended up taking Sam to go see Berman because they really thought maybe she can help, and it did take some convincing, and she did help. But she starts to talk about her story, which happened on a campground in 1978. And so, with that said, I already have my Happy New Beer here. If you like what you hear, don't forget to like, subscribe, comment, hit us up. Definitely subscribe so the algorithm can stop kicking our ass. And when you actually search us, we'll actually come up in maybe hopefully top 10 when it comes to the Carbonation Conversation reviews, whatever you like. Search and podcast and in YouTube. But it's time for C. Berman's story, and we go back in 1978 like it was yesterday. And what we see in the opening scenes here is that the Shady Side versus Sunnyvale, or Sunnyvale versus Shady Side, has been going on basically to the end of time. They don't like each other. We see new character Ziggy, played by Sadie Sink, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, running away from a bunch of Sunnyvale people. You know, they're at a camp, so it's basically mixing Shadyville and Sunnyside. But we got Sunnyside chasing Ziggy. They end up being next to one of, not next to, but they end up confronting her in front of the same tree that Sarah Phil got hanged on. And they basically, which is really fucked up for even teenage kids, because they all look like teenage kids. They literally, they suspend her on this tree, and then they start burning her arm, which is like, whoa. Even some of the kids that are like, are you serious? Is this what we're gonna do? But they're calling Ziggy like the witch, basically, you know, because everybody's heard of the story. And what we see is, we see a young Sheriff Good, Nick, go to stop the madness, basically. Tells everybody to let her go, and he's trying to make an impression on Ziggy, but Ziggy really doesn't really give a shit. She's rebellious. And then we're introduced to Ziggy's sister Cindy, who is totally the opposite. If anybody she related to me in the first movie, it would be Kate, just not, you know, rough or hood like Kate, if you want to say it. She's not selling drugs like Kate. She is literally a goody two shoes, where all she wants to do is leave Shady Side, go to college, and leave the town behind her. In that case, she actually more so reminds me of Sam to a certain degree, because after all, Sam did leave Shady Side and move to Sunnyvale after her parents got divorced. But what we do see is this big confliction between Cindy and Ziggy, because Ziggy swears up and down that Shady Side is just cursed. Bad things happen because we're cursed. You're never going to leave Shady Side. You are going to be stuck here and cursed and die here, just like everybody fucking else. So we do get Ziggy going into to see Ruby Lang. Or is it Nurse Lang? I wonder. I will say Nurse Lang, because I think her daughter is Ruby Lang. But, you know, we see her go see the nurse because she did get burnt on her arm. And when she goes in to see the nurse, she actually sees a book that basically is like a witch book, I guess you can see, she sees an opening. She sees the circle from, was it in part one? I believe it was briefly, possibly in part one, but she does see the circle to the underground area that they eventually, or at least Cindy and Alice, ends up being in and trying to get out. And she asks Nurse Lang about the book. Nurse Lang does bring up her daughter. Her daughter was the a woman who slit her wrist, but before she slit her wrist, she killed 8 people, and she killed them with a switchblade. I believe that was the one who was attacking, I forget the guy's name. Was it Tommy from part 1? Possibly Tommy from part 1. I am not sure. I'm going to search that as we speak, so if I'm wrong, I want to correct that. Let me just put in part 1 casting instead of part 2, and then and we'll see. But she does talk to her about her daughter, and how sometimes just bad shit unfortunately just happens. And so basically we see a scene where Nurse Lang attacks Tommy, and actually Tommy is the guy from part 2, not the guy from part 1. That's my fault. But we do see Tommy, we do see Nurse Lang attacking Tommy, which is Cindy's boyfriend. And basically her reasoning for attacking Tommy is because of the fact that she saw his name written on that cement wall that we saw Sam's name written on, which basically made her become a zombie-ish at the end of part 1, I guess you can say. Yeah, I guess that's what we're gonna say. She became a zombie, and basically she is trying to prevent what happened to Ruby. It seems like I believe part 1 his name was Ryan. I think that was it, Kate and Ryan, if I'm not mistaken, when Ryan got his Achilles sliced by Ruby. That's who Ruby is. But anyways, we see Tommy fighting Nurse Lang off. We see Nurse Lang, hitting something hard on her head and passing out. We see the police come and assume she had a psychotic break like her daughter. We also see a young cadet giving Nick his condolences, because I guess his father was a sheriff, and saying that that position is going to be for you when you grow older, so please take it easy on me. So we can obviously see that even though Nick is extremely young, he does end up becoming Sheriff Good in the future. It definitely seems like he did not have a choice as far as that, but Nick seems like a good guy. We see that they have a Child's Play 3 moment maybe with the capture the flag, but they call it the Color Wars. They're getting prepared for that. Sunnyside has never lost, and so they are basically going to prep and prepare for war, I guess you can say. Sunnyside versus Shadyside. Sunnyvale versus Shadyside. I think that's what it is. Sunnyvale versus Shadyside. So at this point, for whatever reason, Cindy and Tommy, her boyfriend, decides to go back into Nurse Lang's house, and to find the book. I believe that's why they're going there. And they find some medication, which they don't know what it is, because they're trying to debate on whether or not Nurse Lang was just cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, or if she actually was telling the truth, even though what she describes as the truth is pretty unnatural, unreal. Most people wouldn't believe her. And they come across, who are these two characters? Alice, and I believe the second one is Ernie. Now, I will say, I actually really liked Alice. I thought she was by far the best actress in this movie. That is not to poo-poo on Ziggy and Cindy's the actresses in there, but I thought Alice, who is this Ryan Simpkins, I thought she really fucking snapped in this overall movie. But at this point, she's a counselor along with Ernie. They were fucking previously, and basically they were going to the Nurse Lang's house to see if they could take any drugs, basically to get them high. But in the meantime, Alice finds the book, and she basically wants, she realizes that there's a map on the book leading to Sarah Free's location, or some along those lines. And she decides that they should all head there. We do see some tension between Cindy and Alice, like they have known each other. And I even think Alice does mention that they were close friends until Cindy became a snitch. And with Cindy's character, I can actually see that, because she's trying to leave, she's trying to do whatever it takes to leave Shady Side. So I can see her being like a reasonable teenage girl, or girl in middle school, grammar school, or whatever you want to call it, and then finally realizing that there is nothing for her in this town, and then just turning on a new leaf, being the good girl, goody two shoes, teacher's pet, things along those lines. So it seems like Alice has a vendetta against her. But anyways, her, Tommy, Alice, and Ernie go in the woods. They find the area. It seems like it's already been dug up, so it's possible that Nurse Lang was the one that was digging this area up, because she was pretty much trying to see what the fuck is going on. Why did her daughter Ruby act like this, go crazy all of a sudden, etc., etc. They end up finding a, I guess, cave underneath the ground. And they decide to go in, and my black ass, I'm just like, yeah, I wouldn't go down there. They leave Tommy up there, and Cindy, Ernie, and Alice goes down there. They go down there, and they literally find the sigil that was in the book, with fire in the center of it, and all of them kind of start freaking out. They even see another passageway through a certain area behind the sigil, and when they decide that they should go back up, that is when Tommy becomes Nightwing. I think that's his killer name, and he just starts killing everybody. He kills Ernie. The girls are terrified, so they go through that passageway. They get away from him, and it just gets a little bit bonkers from there. We have Cindy and Alice trapped underground underneath the campground, which is the same place that the settlement where part 3 1666 is. So the campground is literally the same area where it all started. We see Tommy kill so many people, so many children, which was actually shocking for a teen scream to me. But he literally does it all. And at this point, the rest of the movie is split up into 2 stories about Ziggy and Nick trying to save the people in the camp, and Cindy and Alice trying to escape where they are, which is like an underground tunnel of where where I guess you could say the witchcraft took place, where the sigil symbol is. While Cindy and Alice are down there, Alice does break her leg. They come across this huge mass of black goo, which was the same black goo that regenerated the 3 killers in the first one, which was Skull Mask, Ruby, and Nightwing. So this is basically like the heart of evil, if as you can say it. There is one moment where they think they escaped, because they end up underneath a toilet that's obviously above them, and for whatever reason the toilet was removed, or the toilet was not there. I forget, I'm gonna be honest with you. But Cindy sees her sister, they pull down a rope, they say come up, and then next thing you know, Tommy's right behind them, kills the guy that's up there, and Alice, who's trying to pull herself up from the rope, just falls flat on the ground, still trapped underneath, which is pretty fucked up if you have a broken leg. They do manage to Cindy and Alice do manage to escape from underneath there, and they all meet up. Alice is still injured. They say she should just relax. And unfortunately, Alice, kind of does the cardinal sin in Scary Movie. She starts to tell her story. She starts to say how she was stealing to eat, how her mom didn't care. And while we're on the conversation of mothers, we do have a conversation between Cindy and Ziggy alongside the movie, where they say their mother is drinking ever since, I believe, either their father left them or their father died, and the house is going to get foreclosed. So we have a lot of situations where kids are just trying to make it, and Alice just pours her heart out, and she's just like, I've never cared about anything in my life. Let me see this through. We can do this. And as soon as they agree, fucking Tommy ass goes up behind the fucking just kills Alice like it ain't shit. And at this point, we have the sisters, the Berman sisters, teaming up to try to kill Tommy. They take his fucking head off, and the black goo that we saw that was underneath the ground starts to pulse like some fucking symbiote, and creates Ruby and the little kid killer, or the little person killer. I don't know if that's a child or a little person, but even brings back Tommy. And so at this point, when they were reading the book in when Alice and Cindy was trapped in the tunnel, the book did mention that in order to stop the curse, you have to put the witch's hand, which she sacrificed in that area, to put the curse back together with the body. And so they go searching for the body. They think they have a idea where the body is, and unfortunately the body is not there. We have Tommy, the kid killer, and Ruby surrounding them, and unfortunately they kill Cindy and Ziggy. But what we realized, because in part 1 they do mention in the newspaper that they read that C. Berman was brought back to life. And what we see is Nick Good, the young sheriff, resuscitates Ziggy, who we find out is actually C. Berman, because I would have thought that C. Berman was Cindy, but I guess maybe she just took on that initial as a tribute to her sister, or just never forget. Don't know. But She is brought back to life and her sister is dead. So after she is telling them this story, they figure out that the tree that's in the mall from part 1 is the same tree that Sarah Fear died in, which is just very weird to have that fucking tree there. But they go to the mall, they dig around the tree to see if the hand is there, and the hand is technically still there. So all Dina at this point, now we're back in 1994, all Dina thinks that they need to do is put the hand back to the body, and Sam will be saved, basically. Unfortunately, as soon as she touches the hand, she is transported back to 1666 as Sarah Fear. And that is where part 3 comes into play, which I will be reviewing as well. My overall grade, and I am grading these as teen screams, I'm not grading them as adult horror movies because they're really not. I thought this was really good. I'm digging the homages, because this was just basically like, Jason Voorhees at, Camp Crystal Lake, and the counselor's not really paying attention. Obviously, that had nothing to, the counselor's not paying attention, and Friday the 13th movies had nothing to do with the Fear Street Part 2, but man, he had an axe. JC usually uses, axes or chainsaws or whatever you want to call it, and I do like the killer, Tommy. Very, very fast killer. I swear, when he went into that school bus full of kids that were like 12 and younger and just massacre everybody. Obviously, they didn't show it, but goddamn, you can hear it. It was actually pretty shocking and pretty tripped out, especially for a teen scream. And even the sex. I mean, they had 2 sex scenes in this one. In part 1, I don't think there was any sex scenes. I mean, there was a lot of insinuation on things, but I don't think there was any sex in 1994. I could be wrong about that, though. But yeah, I would grade this a 8 out of 10 as far as teen screams. As far as adult screams, I would say 4 or 5 out of 10. And me and my wife, it took us like a week to watch all 3 parts. We liked it. Our son, who's 5, thought it was terrifying. And I wish we had like a niece or nephew that was between the ages of like 13 and, I would say 13 would be a good age, as long as you talk to them about the sex scenes, obviously, and about the violence as well. But I feel like people often put sex over violence. Sex is a little bit taboo for kids to watch. You can literally have a kid watch an action movie where a guy takes a machine gun and just kills all the bad guys, where they show gore and everything. But when it comes to sex, no for children. It's kind of weird. People are weird. But that's all I have. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Melvin Banks, and before I get out of here, I have to take my shout out. And my shout out is going to Alice. I mean, not only R.I.P. Alice, but I really think the actress definitely did snap as a character in this. I really do. I really enjoyed her acting. Let me see if I can just look her up and see if she was in anything, because she kind of looked familiar, but I don't know if she's been in anything. Anything else I know? Ryan Simpkins. Let's take a look at her Wikipedia. I'm gonna take this shot and then I'm gonna scan through her shit. She was actually in a lot of stuff. I just unfortunately don't know these movies. Hell, she was actually in Fear Street 1966, which is very interesting because I personally don't remember her. from there. She was on CSI. But me personally, I don't know of any of the movies that she was in. I'm just looking through her list here, and there isn't any movies that I could be like, oh, that was her, and I was really hoping that it was. Pride and Glory, I just don't know who she was in it, even though they're giving me the character name. I think I've seen Pride and Glory, maybe haven't, but I really, really liked her in this movie. I thought she stood out. But anyways, I digress. Ladies and gentlemen, I am Melvin Banks. This has been the Carbonation Conversation. If you like the music in the background, if you like the audio editing, which you will never notice, definitely contact MoBeats89. Check out his stuff on all platforms so you can see his work. He does it all, guys. He definitely does it all, and he is the heart of the Carbonation Conversation. If it wasn't for him, it would pretty much just be me and Ito with no shit in the background, just talking, which, doesn't really put enough flavor into it. And so if you want to hit him up directly, definitely hit him up at mobeats89@gmail.com. I think that's the first time I've actually said gmail.com. I usually say put it at gmail.com at the end of that MF or at the end of that shit. But definitely check him out. Once again, I am Melvin Banks. Thank you for listening to my review of Fear Street Part 2, 1978, and look forward to Fear Street Part 3, 1666. Peace. Love you.